In part 1 of Christ's first letter from heaven, we examined whether the salvation that Christians believe in today is truly biblical. Now, through the scriptures, we will examine in detail what Jesus himself actually taught concerning salvation and eternal life. John 3:16-17. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but should have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world through him might be saved. These verses speak about the purpose for which God sent his only begotten Son, Jesus, into this world. In other words, God sent his only begotten Son, so that all who believe in Jesus would not perish, but would have eternal life. And God did not send Jesus to judge the world, but so that the world might be saved through him. Therefore, this means that those who believe in Jesus will not perish, but will receive salvation. However, pastors today distort this passage and falsely testify that those who believe in the Son of God have already obtained eternal life. Yet the members of their churches do not question what their pastors say even in the slightest, but simply believe it as they are taught. For this reason, Jesus again says in John 5:25 that those who hear his voice will live. John 5:25, Truly, truly, I say to you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live. Jesus says that the time is coming when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and that those who hear the voice of the Son will live. However, when Jesus says that those who believe in him will receive salvation, or that those who hear the Lord's voice will live, he is not speaking in the completed sense that they have already received salvation or have already lived. Rather, he speaks in the future sense, so that they might be saved, and those who hear will live. Yet pastors today change this future sense into a completed sense and falsely testify that those who believe in Jesus have already received salvation, and that those who hear his voice have already lived. For this reason, Jesus again speaks in the future sense, saying, I am the living bread that came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. John 6:50-51. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that one may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. These verses say that Jesus is the living bread that came down from heaven, and that he came so that those who eat this bread may not die, but live. However, Jesus says that even if a person believes in him, hears his voice, and eats the bread that he gives, that person cannot enter the kingdom of heaven, eternal life, unless he does the will of God. Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. As stated above, Jesus says that even if a person calls him Lord, Lord, believes in him, hears the Lord's voice, and eats the words of life that Jesus gives, that person cannot enter the kingdom of heaven unless he does the will of my Father. Thus, the salvation, eternal life, and the way to the kingdom of heaven that Jesus speaks of are very different from the salvation, eternal life, and the way to the kingdom of heaven that pastors today teach. So far, we have examined part 2 of Christ's first letter from heaven, salvation and eternal life as taught by Jesus. Jesus spoke of two ways, the way that leads to life and the way that leads to destruction. Then, which way are God's people today actually walking? In the next installment, part 3, we will examine in detail through the scriptures the way that leads to life and the way that leads to destruction, as taught by Jesus. Christ's letters from heaven. If you would like to learn more about the words contained in Christ's letters from heaven, please feel free to contact us. We would like to share these words with those who earnestly seek and search for the way of life. Thank you for watching.